Okay. It's actually really fucking cold in this garden. I call the garden a blanket. I am really, really exhausted beyond usual. We went for a walk with the dogs. It's been a long time actually. We've had to play with them in the garden a lot. We'll walk them like around the block every so often, but like that's been the upper limit. We've been so drained. To be honest, ever since the concert, it's like I think that the level of trauma work that we're doing is taking all of our energy. So I don't think it was just the concert, but definitely feels like we need to recover more. And I am so fucking tired. I'm unbelievably fucking tired. We took them for like a decent walk and let them sniff places. And my whole fucking back hurts and my knees hurt. And I feel like an ancient fucking relic. Why am I in so much pain? Why does my lower back hurt so much? It never used to be this bad. We got in and Ryan was like, it's because we're old. I was like, no, don't. It's not. We are not old. We're deteriorating. Is the next thing he said. Fuck. God damn. So I'm really, really, really fucking exhausted. Very beyond words exhausted. And I'm gonna try and vlog a bit because we've got a lot. We've got a ton on our mind. And like all pretty big stuff. Like when is it not? But what I really like is, I know it sounds kind of strange, but what I really like is that our problems keep changing. Like, we very rarely have to bring the same thing up to our therapist twice. Or if we do, it's like a different section of the same thing. And like the things we're struggling with, there are some repeated patterns, but like a lot of the time they're changing, and the way that the issue presents, like it might present a lot of different ways, and then eventually we work out it's the same core thing. Like a lot of the things that we're struggling with, I think I'm starting to see that we need to be able to self-soothe more. Starting to understand that validating, reassuring, and soothing are three very different skill sets needed for three like very different things. So that's cool, though we're getting more understanding there. I think I'm starting to work out how to use which and when, but I think I've worked out that we're not that familiar with self-soothing yet. So it's like we'll keep going, and we'll keep like processing and regulating and like calming down from triggers, but it always feels like I don't know how to explain it. It still kind of feels like we're holding our breath. Like we regulate and we get back to a level that's like able to cope again, but it feels like we never get a proper break. And like I'm kind of constantly feeling like I don't have quite enough air, and then we'll get like a regular amount, and like it doesn't feel like I have enough ways to just totally restock like renew us, refresh us after like say dealing with the universal credit people. As much as I fucking love the concert and it did a lot and I'm glad we went and it was amazing, it still feels like it's like added. It's like we never come down. Like everything kind of stacks. So like the universal credit and the concert and like the other, thinking about our past and our connections and our ability to connect and understand what that meant with friends we used to have and people that we know, and then also like, you know, abusive fucking assholes that we had connections with that fucked up our abilities to connect in a healthy way. So like there's all this stuff, but it feels like even when I'm regulating from it and not thinking about it, it doesn't really switch off. It feels like it's like in the background kind of running. And I think that has to do with our ability to self-soothe, not just our ability to like regulate the nervous system back to a state of kind of calm, kind of okay after instances of being triggered and shit. I think that is self-soothing. And this is, I think, why like we go a period of months or a period of weeks and then somebody's like, fuck it, I need wine, I need something. And we just have like a couple of days of just drinking and then generally we stop and we're fine. And like, that's not the worst thing in the world. Pretty happy with that. But also I don't want to have to keep taking, it feels like coming up for air with it, and I want a way to kind of be able to do that as we go so that we don't need to do that. Not that I have a problem with using that to like with drinking, or it depends how it's being used, you know. At the minute it feels like we need it when it happens, and I don't like that, because I'd rather that we felt stable and like able to deal with things and cope ourselves, and then we could choose to drink for fun or something, and that would be fine, but I don't want to feel like we have to use it to get a breath. So, oh god, I'm so tired. So I think it has to do with our ability to self-soothe, and I have not quite worked out what that feels like for sure. I think I know what it feels like. I think there's periods that I'm like, okay, I think that's feeling soothed, and it feels like I get to take a breath and like healing sighs and like an actual and release of tension, and like the things that we can do to achieve that are quite like, I don't think a lot of things fall into that category. I think doing art probably falls into many categories. Like I think that helps us to regulate and self-soothe, but we can't always do it, and I haven't worked out why. Listening to music. You sure? That's very cool. Like, I don't mind which. Thank you. We have like ways that we use music to communicate. Like, we'll save them to a playlist back and forth, and it's kind of like, it's a conversation basically of like, and it tends to change and evolve as we do. And we can just like save these songs to a playlist and then have the other person listen to the response whenever they're fronting. Like before we could both co-front, this is what we used to do. We used to save a song, and then when the next person fronted, they would see the song on the playlist and play it and listen and work out what it was saying and like go and get a response and save it, and it would go like this. And as time has gone by, we've started gaining the ability to like communicate a bit better in here and both front at the same time. Then it's evolved to like, we'll both sit and listen to it together, and that way you can have really complex, nuanced conversations, because I can feel which exact lines from here are applicable in which ways. And like a lot of our conversations are not saying what it looks like they're saying on the surface, which I think is very cool, and also led to a lot of miscommunication at first when we didn't know to check things with each other and just made assumptions and couldn't communicate this way. So it was like, it's a very nice way to communicate. And then we also, Vince has a stage inside, like, I would say in his room, but it's not really in his room. It's through his room. There is a massive fucking black void theatre room. I don't know how to fucking explain it. It's really cool. It's like massive and old-fashioned looking and echoey and a little bit ethereal. And I hope I'm protecting you enough from this, because or like all of us, because I don't want to have to listen back to Wind either, but it's very cool. And out of like the murky void stuff, it sort of feels a bit like being in a room that can generate projections and simulations, with like fucking coloured random energy and shit. Like it just gets kind of conjured as you sing on the stage. I don't know how else to describe it. So what we do now tends to be like, we'll put headphones on and sort of, it feels a bit like meditating. I guess it's a form of dissociation. I'm not really sure. But we'll like not be very, like we'll be half connected to the body and what's happening so that we can control the music and stuff, but we'll be like relaxed, taken backwards in, like more focused on the inner world and communicating there, and both able to access this stage. And then these songs we've saved to the playlist will just be like sung back and forth to each other in a much more profound and like fucking three-dimensional way than you could just with lyrics, because things like memory reels can flash around us, and the room, you can have like holograms of various memories or various things appear and distort and change as we move around them. And it's like, for some reason, it has become a key part of the way we process trauma and information and events. So it's got like a massive role in our healing and our communication. And that is definitely something that feels like it's soothing, I think. Or it can be processing work. It really depends on what the song is and what we're saying and what it's about and what it conjures up, I guess, and what we move through and respond to. So it's like, that definitely has elements of self-soothing. The wind is really powerful today. I'm gonna be careful because, like, right now I'm I'm wearing lipstick, and if I get it on the jacket, it will never come off. And also, I want to be blocking the wind, not funneling it to make a specifically louder noise than is usual. And I don't know which I'm doing till I listen to it back. None of these things are the end of the world. And yeah, so I've been thinking about self-soothing a lot, because I feel like we don't have enough sources, or we don't do it often enough. I guess watching comfort shows, kind of hard to do. Some parts of us can't really relax into watching TV shows because it feels too disconnected and too like mundane for the seriousness and the levels which we usually experience life on. So I wouldn't say that was always accessible to all parts of us. Some of us can watch like comfort TV shows, usually things with system vibes, like, which are it's like all the things that give me system vibes and feel familiar to me are not really TV shows about systems. Like The Umbrella Academy, that's good system vibes. Buffy, I think that has good system vibes. Friends, although extremely problematic and toxic in places, also can have good system vibes. There's a few things like that, so like I guess that's self-soothing. Just lately, it's so sad how hard it is to access anything that's like reassuring in some ways, in a lot of ways, because things like, we learnt a while ago that putting a hand on the chest and applying pressure, something our therapist recommended a long time ago, but we were all too like, it felt too weird, and we couldn't use it because it feeling unfamiliar and kind of cringy, and like I guess there was internalized shame about it, and that's why it felt cringy. But like it wasn't really accessible, and lately it has become more so because we have naturally started to do it, rather than thinking like mechanically, I am going to apply pressure to the chest to help deal with the pain of grief that's there. It's more like I feel pain in him, and I just, I don't know, it's like I just find myself like putting my hand to our chest. It's more of an emotional response, I guess, than like a mechanical one. Like, I'm not thinking, oh, this will help. I'm not really thinking. I'm feeling the pain he's in and wanting to do anything to make him not be in that kind of pain. And we've started like actually being able to just hug each other. Sorry. Can I repeat that? I do think it's worth it. I felt him with sort of flare up with anger, and I was like, sorry, I should have checked I could say that first. And he's like, nope, you're right, it's just, cringe is just internalized shame. Fuck internalized shame, keep going. Which I agree, fuck internalized shame. I think that being affectionate and taking care of each other or ourselves in that way was like, I think that it's always been criticized. I don't remember who by is the weird thing, but I have distinct memories of like feeling ashamed of trying to hug myself, or like obviously as a kid I think I probably would have been hugging him or someone else in here anyway. It just feels like I'm doing something wrong, trying to comfort us or use any sort of physical affection. It feels inherently like embarrassing and shameful and like I'm doing the wrong thing, and it's really difficult to get around that and to develop a new association to it. We've started being able to. Responding like that in front of people is getting a little bit ever so slightly easier every so often, but it's still like a limited amount of people that we have that we practice around. That is by far the most fucking profoundly helpful, immediately soothing. It's like putting fucking aloe vera on a burn. That immediately changes how we feel in our chest, in our body, in our emotional state. Generally it causes like leaking tears and yawning. It's just so fucking relieving of the pain and stress, and just that is the top tier of self-soothing. It's just that for some reason it's like we can't, sometimes we do it for a little bit and then it's like there's this agitated feeling of anxiety, like the need to speed away and disconnect. I haven't quite worked out why. It could just be because it's so unfamiliar and we've got such strong associations to it being a shameful thing to do. Like, I don't know why. I think that in this trash capitalist hellscape, a lot of people are probably like, we're probably all taught that hugging yourself looks weird, or like people will respond to it as if it's a weird thing to do. I don't think it's generally that normalized in society. So I think that's a bit of it. So normalizing it to ourselves is a bit of work. Maybe that's why it's like not always accessible. But fucking hell, every single time it helps so much. Like the lately we've had like just every so often have a massive craving for being like, I really want to buy alcohol or start smoking again. And if we like, generally we were able to distract ourselves by being like, I don't know, go do exercise if we have the energy, or try and do some art, or like just try and distract basically. And it would take like a long time and it would be really hard. It would take like a few hours to get over it, and every time we'd think of it we'd still get the of like stressed and needing it, and having to breathe through it a lot, and like it took a lot of different skill sets and quite a long time to feel like we could cope without it. And generally it would be like by the next day that we were starting to actually feel better. It was a lot of work. And we've noticed that just if we get that panic, despairing, hopelessness and craving, like that's the only thing that will fix it. If we just sit and like hold the body and each other and ourselves for a few minutes, or even fuck within the first few seconds, it's like immediately makes it feel like we can cope without it and feel that relief and collapse. I think maybe the ability to disconnect from everything keeping us disconnected and reconnect with ourselves and each other is maybe what the alcohol is about in the first place, and maybe this is why it's like such an immediate core fix for that. So it might be kind of hard to get used to it, but like whether you're a system or a singlet, either way, I can't tell you how much I recommend learning to like self-soothe by hugging or putting pressure on your chest or just like holding yourself and having physical acts of comfort. Like, I can't tell you how much I recommend it. It's like fucking night and day, the difference. And yeah, not like there might be a lot of barriers to feeling that immediate comfort from it. There certainly were and are for us. It's something to work through, but it is so fucking worth it. It's so fucking worth it. It's like the immediate relief that we would get from drinking alcohol, but yeah, really recommend that. I feel like we don't do it often enough. Like, we have to get up to a point of being like really feeling panic and not feeling okay to think of it. It's happening more and more often now, though, that I'll feel pain or go at something, and he'll like put pressure on my chest or just like even just like put a hand on a shoulder or something. Like, there is some comforting gesture that you can physically feel, and it's so immediately fucking supportive. Like, my whole nervous system is supported by it, my emotions, me, it's massive, and we're kind of remembering to do that more often, I've noticed. So I'm starting to feel like this serious deficit for self-soothing behaviours, and like we don't get enough of a break because we don't have enough to employ. But I think that's the main one, that if we just did that more often and at lower levels of stress, we would probably benefit from a lot. It's just, you know, getting through the barriers of it feeling uncomfortable or feeling weird. And God knows we have never been affectionate to each other. I think the only physical contact we had, generally speaking, would be violent in nature was what I was thinking. And it's like, otherwise, just literally even fronting, we'd keep several foot gap between us. Like, we are not used to supporting each other in a tactile way. So you're really distracting me. I can't even hear my own fucking sentence anymore. Oh. It's a useful skill set. If people don't make really awkward jokes about it, or... I think it does generally feel uncomfortable, though. We still feel quite guarded with each other, even though we know it helps. I think it probably is largely the internalized shame, yeah. And I think I'm pretty sure we've had experiences of being... I feel like people are going to attack us for it. I feel like people are going to bully us for it. I feel like it's going to have bad, potentially dangerous consequences and be noticed. And I don't remember why, but I do, so... It can be quite hard to relax enough for it to help. And it's so fucking worth it. It's absolutely worth it. God, I'm so tired. I don't know if I can even... leaning forwards to switch the fucking camera off. I don't want to disturb you from your much more comfortable napping place. Hardly napping, I don't give a